Welcome to a Legendarium special about the golden myth and the bloody reality of El Dorado. This legendary city, despite never existing as imagined, led thousands of men into the dangerous interior of South America. The El Dorado myth had its roots in the vast fortunes discovered in Mexico and Peru. In 1519, Hernan Cortes captured Aztec Emperor Montezuma and sacked his mighty empire, making off with thousands of pounds of gold and silver. Cortes and his conquistadors became rich beyond the dreams of avarice. In 1533, Francisco Pizarro discovered the Inca Empire in the Andes Mountains of South America. Taking a page from Cortes's playbook, Pizarro captured the Inca Emperor Atahualpa and held him for ransom, earning another vast fortune. Other American cultures, such as the Maya in Central America and the Muisca in present-day Colombia, yielded smaller but still sizable treasures. While Europeans prized gold for its monetary value, indigenous South Americans valued gold because of its beauty, incorruptibility, spiritual link to the sun, and its workability in the hands of craftsmen. Abundant gold supplies meant that even people of modest means sometimes had small bits of gold jewelry. Of course, cultural matters meant little to conquistadors. They cared about tales of fortunes to be stolen, making the rounds in Europe. Thousands of adventurers traveled to the Americas, hoping to be part of the next big conquests. Such men had little or no personal fortune, but great ambition and experience fighting in Europe's many wars. These violent and ruthless men had nothing to lose and believed they had a fortune to be gained. Expeditions would set off into the unknown interior, following the vaguest rumors of gold. In time, one such rumor reached Spanish ears. It told of a king of the Muisca nation, which lived in Cundinamarca since the year 800 AD. When a Muisca king died, the chosen successor, usually his son or nephew, went through a long initiation process. At his coronation, the new king coated himself in sticky sap and then adorned himself with gold powder. Surrounded by the 4 highest priests, all wearing feathers, gold crowns, and body ornaments, the leader, unclothed but for the gold dust, made an offering of golden objects, emeralds, and other precious stones to the gods by throwing them into the lake. He then took a canoe to the center of Lake Guatavita, while the shores filled with spectators playing musical instruments and burning fires that almost blocked out the daylight from the lake basin. The royal canoe itself had 4 burning fires upon it, which threw up plumes of incense smoke into the sky. When at the very center of the lake, the priest raised a flag to order the crowd into silence. At this moment, the anointed monarch leaped into the lake, and the crowds proclaimed their loyalty by shouting approval from the lake shore. The new king emerged clean from the lake before joining his subjects in a great festival. Though the Muisca had abandoned any such tradition by the time of the Spanish arrival, the stories of it still spread to European cities across South America. The ancient king gained a name among the Spanish, El Dorado, from the Spanish words for the Gilded One. During the year 1537, a Spanish expedition conquered the Cundinamarca Plateau and dredged Lake Guatavita in search of centuries' worth of discarded gold. While the Spaniards found some wealth in Guatavita, they did not find as much as they hoped for, in part because the Muisca truly prized an alloy of gold, silver, and copper called tambaga. They prized it for its spiritual value and devoted half their metalwork to tambaga religious offerings. Additionally, these coronation ceremonies took place on a much smaller scale than what unfolded in greed-addled Spanish imaginations. Therefore, the Spanish chose to believe that the Muisca must not be the true kingdom of El Dorado and that it must still be out there somewhere waiting to be conquered and plundered. The legend only grew as illiterate conquistadors passed the legend by word of mouth. They spoke of El Dorado not merely as a golden man, but a city made of gold, with enough wealth for 1,000 men to become rich forever. Between 1530 and 1650, thousands of men made dozens of expeditions into the unmapped interior of South America. A typical expedition went something like this. In a Spanish coastal town on the South American mainland like Santa Marta or Coro, a charismatic individual who had the means to borrow money announced an expedition. Anywhere from 100 to 700 Europeans, mostly Spaniards but with a smattering of Italians and Frenchmen, signed up, bringing their own armor, weapons, and horses. Expedition members forced indigenous Americans to carry the heaviest gear, and some of the better planned expeditions brought hogs to slaughter and eat along the way. Fighting dogs came along to frighten indigenous nations into submission. After a couple of months, the expedition headed off, seemingly in any random direction. They stayed out for any length of time, ranging from a couple of months to 4 years, searching plains, mountains, rivers, and jungles. They met indigenous people along the way and either tortured them or plied them with gifts to get information about where they could find gold. Almost inevitably, the indigenous peoples pointed in some direction and insisted their nearest enemies had the gold. All the while, illnesses, desertion, and indigenous attacks whittled down the expedition. They could prove surprisingly resilient, braving mosquito-infested swamps, angry hordes, blazing heat on the plains, flooded rivers, and frosty mountain passes. Eventually, when their numbers got too low or when the leader died, the expedition returned home with nothing, though hopefully a little wiser. At their best, the would-be conquistadors treated the indigenous Americans with some respect and mapped the interior of South America. Such benign men included Francisco de Orellana, who discovered the Amazon River and followed it to the Atlantic Ocean. At their worst, these greedy and obsessed butchers murdered thousands searching for a city which did not exist. Such men included Lope de Aguirre, who caused the deaths of 72 members of his own expedition. Such parties continued through the 16th and part of the 17th century, though it would not be until 1800 that Alexander Humboldt officially concluded that El Dorado only existed in the imagination. Today, one can find El Dorado on a map, though it's not the one the Spanish sought. There are towns named El Dorado in several countries, including Venezuela, Mexico, and Canada. In the United States, there are no fewer than 13 towns named El Dorado, though they probably don't have streets paved with gold. The notion of a lost city and desperate men searching for it is too romantic for writers and artists to resist. Countless songs, books, and poems, including one by Edgar Allan Poe, have been written about the subject. It continued to appear in more recent media, like the 2001 animated film The Road to El Dorado, and being referenced in the 2005 video game Sid Meier's Pirates. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.